So, hey everyone, I needed to make a video that sort of addresses kind of two issues that come up quite often in classes, both on ground and online, and that is the issue of plagiarism. And it's pretty sad that I have to even talk about plagiarism, but it's a big issue, and it's been a big issue even as I'm coming out of summer school. I had a lot of issues with students using plagiarism and a lot of students using AI. So we need to address kind of that issue as well. So let me start off just talking about kind of a funny story. Is that a couple of years ago I took this workshop that basically focused on how to teach college composition, and it was a pretty thorough workshop, and we had to go over to Sac State, and at Sac State we took part of this class, and there was an instructor there that was saying every single time when an instructor reviews the syllabus, the number one thing that students hate is when they review the plagiarism policy, because Sac State students felt that when instructors reviewed the plagiarism policy, it was like you already committed the crime. You were guilty, you've already been sent to the dean's office, and it's like you're going to go to jail. And so the big recommendation was, when you're reviewing the syllabus policy, right, don't be so mean to students. Don't, accuse them of doing something. And I find that really funny because my response was like, hell no. I've seen so many instances of just blatant plagiarism that there is no way that when I go over the plagiarism policy, I'm going to be gentle and kind and be like, oh, because it's just been too common and and happens too often, right? So we could talk about plagiarism, when you take someone else's words and you don't give them credit for it. And on an online class, it just doesn't really make sense to plagiarize because the Canvas uses Turnitin.com, and it goes through the internet and finds matches. It goes through some of the pay sites, and it'll give a score that'll show where you plagiarized. The interesting thing that Turnitin.com now, though, has it also starts to scan for AI. And it is so interesting that AI is also considered to be a form of cheating. And what happens with AI is there's a couple things. Either the plagiarism detector will score it as being written by AI. And what happens, AI is really interesting because what AI does is it makes things up. And so I'm basically able to find students who've used AI because it makes up false information, and that isn't accurate. So I think the best story that I can use about AI is I was in Yosemite with my buddy a couple years ago, and he's like, hey, have you started to use AI? And I said, no, I'm going to kind of wait till they get all the kinks of it. And he's like, let's play around with it. Let's play around with AI. And so he said, AI, does Ed Gutowski teach English? And AI goes, yes, Ed Gutowski is a professor of English. He teaches college composition. In fact, Ed Gutowski has been teaching at Fresno State from 1946 to 1976 and has won all these awards. And it kind of went on and on. I thought, God, that's really, really bizarre. So I did a Google search. There's no Ed Gutowski that taught at Fresno State from 1940s or 1970s. But what AI did is it just made something up. And I found that is really the case when students use AI on their papers. It just makes stuff up that isn't true. Sometimes students will try to use AI on quizzes, and it just makes up things that are so factually incorrect and wrong. So just to understand that, the dean this summer, we spent a lot of time dealing with AI and a lot of time dealing with plagiarism. And they're pretty frustrated with it. So the policy is basically if you use AI, you plagiarize something, you get an F on the assignment, you have to get reported to the dean, and then the dean can decide whether or not they want to recommend that you meet with the dean of student discipline. So what I'm just hoping is that, you understand, just don't plagiarize, don't use AI, because our class is going to be a lot of fun, and if you're going to plagiarize, you're going to use AI, it really doesn't benefit you because you're not going to become a better writer. I'll guide you through the writing process. So you just got to respond on what you thought of the AI or the plagiarism policy and what you think of the story about how Sac State's students feel that plagiarism is addressed.